you know, one of the most important things you can do in your business is nurture your audience. If you've been following me for all the years that I've been here, you know I'm always talking about the importance of nurturing, especially in the feminine marketing model that I teach. And I have to say, many of the speakers I've had long-term business relationships with, but recently I met Miss Brittany here, who is joining me, and there was this instant connection about what she teaches, how she teaches it, her vibe and everything. And I am so excited to have her here with me today to talk about this in more depth. So allow me to introduce her. Brittany Long is known as the Queen of Evergreen Emails. She is a former award-winning educator who works with entrepreneurs, just like all of you, to automate their businesses for a regret-free life. And this next statement is another reason I love her, because you all know I don't do Fridays for the last decade, and my team doesn't either. And so when I read her bio, and she said she works with entrepreneurs to automate their business for a regret-free life through the use of her Friday off framework. I'm like, oh, come on, every entrepreneur needs to know this. She takes Fridays off and encourages other entrepreneurs to do the same. Brittany, welcome, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, one of the things, you know, as you know, from when I reached out to you, I cold called her and said, listen, I love your message. I love how you teach. I think you'd be a divine match. It aligns with everything that my audience knows me for. And so you're all about the nurturing through our email sequences. So talk about that for a moment, and then we'll dive into everything that you're going to teach us.
Yeah. So I saw that there was a way for us to connect with our audience. And some people have, you know, tons of people on their audience, people that you wouldn't be able to really reach one-on-one. But because of email marketing, we're able to reach those people. We're able to have an impact. And my love for email marketing really started when I was working for someone doing email marketing, and we had someone respond and say that we literally saved their life with an email. They were having a really rough time, and it was an email about proofreading. It wasn't an email, you know, when I sent it out, I didn't think, oh, this is going to totally blow someone's mind and change their life. Like it was an email about proofreading. But it was something that gave them hope when they were feeling otherwise hopeless. And that was the moment when I realized that the things that we send out to people could impact their lives on this huge, massive scale. It wasn't just about selling to people. That's a beautiful side effect of sending consistent emails and nurturing. But it was about, we could literally change people's lives and make this huge impact on them with the things that are in our hearts and in our heads.
Speaking my language, my friend, I tell people it's about having a conversation. It's about what, like if you welcome someone into your home, you want to open the door and go, hey, go have a seat. Catch you later. I want to watch a show. It's like you would sit with them and communicate with them and chat with them. Email is our only way to do that and create that relationship. That's what I found in my business. Is that's my connection tool where I can show up authentically. So you work with a lot of clients, helping them craft their welcome sequences and all that. And you've discovered 4 types of emails that people most love to read. Now, I know right now everyone's going, wait a minute, let me get my pen. Because everyone struggles with this, right? And so we'd love to hear those 4 kinds, and then we'll continue our conversation.
So one of them is a tip email. So this is something that's helpful, that's valuable, something that they can walk away from that email and say, I know how to do something, or I can get this done really fast. Typically, it's some kind of short tip or short instructional kind of thing that they can do in the next 5 minutes. That's one of the favorite emails that we get. Another favorite email we get is when we ask people a question and we actually ask them to respond. When we're doing that, we want to ask them, I've done this a few ways, and we've worked with a lot of clients who have done this many ways. We find that people that say a question, one question, not like answer this, then this, then this, but just ask them one question and then give them options to respond. We see the most responses with that. People want to give an opinion. They want to share what they think. But if you're giving them a lot of questions, or you're not giving them a clear question, they often won't respond because they're not 100% sure what you're even asking them. And so we might say something like, reply and let me know which of these sounds most like you. And so we'll give them 4 different options. And we can even say, answer A, B, C, D. And a lot of times will answer with a lot more than that, but they want to give their opinion. They want to feel like their voice matters. So an email that's like that. Another email that's one of my favorites is an email that's very story driven, that talks about your life, something that's going on with you. And while we have story elements in every email, this kind of email is one that is very, very heavy on story. I sent one the other day that was about a time when I was teaching that we had this lesson about rockets, and I shot a rocket off in class, which looking back was obviously a terrible idea. But at the time I was thinking, oh my gosh, we're running out of time. It's too cold outside. It's not going off. My students need to know this lesson. Like, we'll just do this really quick. It burned off all the hair on my knuckles and caught on fire. It was just a disaster. But those kind of stories are the stories that people remember. And when I see people in person for events, retreats, things like that, they bring up those stories that I shared. And so it builds that relationship. And then the other one is one that gives them the opportunity to be part of the story. So maybe you're creating something and you want to know what has had an impact on them, or what has meant something to them. And so you ask them to share their story with you. And this is one that a lot of people shy away for, whether it's testimonials or just trying to get a clear picture of why someone would want to even buy your offer. But asking people to share their experiences, their stories, not just their opinion, but something a little bit deeper. It feels like that conversation. It feels like that relationship. And those are some of the emails that we see doing really well.
So do you ask on the ones for the responses, do you say just hit reply to this email and that's it? Now, here's my question, because we do that a lot, and I'll tell my clients, I don't do it as consistently, but one of the things some of the clients push back is like, oh my God, but then I have to respond back.
Yeah.
So tell me, you recommend, because to me that's a relationship. I respond back. So my clients will push back like, what do I say? And what do you say? It's like, respond back, even if only as a thank you.
Yeah. So sometimes people get overwhelmed because they think there's going to be millions of responses coming in, and there's going to be fewer responses than you think. So let's say you have a list of 5,000, you're not going to get 5,000 responses. So that's the first thing. The second thing is you're going to see some patterns in some of those responses. So you're not going to have to come up with a incredibly unique message every single time. Like you said, you can just say thank you sometimes, and that's enough. The other thing you can do is, if you want to, you can use AI to help you come up with those responses. And so those are 3 ways that you can kind of take some of the pressure off of yourself. But it is really important to respond for a few reasons. One, it is that relationship, but also, well, 3 reasons. It's the relationship. 2, if you don't respond, they're going to realize, well, why am I replying? They're not going to respond back to me. And then 3, it helps with their deliverability. So it means that your emails are able to get into the inboxes of more people. You're able to impact more people. You're able to make that offer to more people if you're getting replies and then also replying back to them.
I think that's a good point you brought up. So for all the entrepreneurs who may be newer in business, talk about deliverability real quick, because that getting someone to reply to an email does something in the ethers, right? So talk about it in a simple way that they'll understand why this is important, even for deliverability.
So if you've ever wanted to hear from someone in your inbox and you think, I haven't heard from them in a really long time, I wonder why. And then you realize their email's going to your other folder, your promotions folder, your spam folder. That's what happens when you send out a lot of emails, but you're not ever having anyone reply. It can go into one of those other folders, especially if you're only sending like launch emails, then it definitely gets into that promotions tab instead, and they don't see it anymore. And so if you want to continue that relationship, if you want to make it easier for you to sell, then you need to have emails going into their main primary inbox that they're going to see. And when you reply to an email, it marks it as, oh, this is somebody they want to hear from. And so getting them to reply indicates, yes, this is somebody we want to keep putting in the main inbox because they want to hear from them because they're replying.
That's beautiful. So you have the 4 ways. So someone could, instead of asking a question every week and people go, why is she asking me a question every week? Do you recommend like just spacing out the 4 ways, using them? But like, I think the questions every week, just so in case everyone's like, oh, I'll ask a question every week, would that be overwhelming to the audience?
It really depends on your audience. So there's some people, some of my friends and colleagues literally send emails every day. And so you may think, oh my gosh, that'd be so overwhelming, but they end up having people that are like super fans because of it. And so it really depends on your audience. If your audience is people that are super bogged down and overwhelmed, and they're just like completely anxious and overwhelmed all the time, then sending multiple emails a week probably would be a little bit much. Sending questions would probably be a little bit much. If you do decide to send questions, though, ask that A, B, C, or D, and that'll make it much easier for them. And then you can also make it easy for them to consume your information too, by making it a little bit shorter. If you have people an audience that is like, I have so much going on all the time.
Yeah, so that's a great point too. It is the length of the emails, right? I love the spaciousness. I love white space. I'm just visually for myself as the receiver. I don't like big blocks of text, right? It's like I'm a scanner. Give me the. Do you notice that too in a lot of your correspondence?
Absolutely, yeah.
Processing.
Yeah, so we try to do a few things. First, we try to mix up our emails so they're not all super long, not all super short. We'll have one that's longer, one that's shorter, so they're not all the same thing every single time. But then in the emails, within the paragraphs, we chunk them up so that it's easier to consume. Think about it like if somebody's sending you a text and you're like, oh my gosh, this is 19 paragraphs long, then the thought of reading that is like a lot. So what we want to do is chunk it up into smaller parts and then use formatting like bold or italics to help chunk it up even more for the skimmer.
Yeah, I always put like little, like, oh, this is the moment above that paragraph. And I put it in bold and they're like, what's that about? And they just keep to the page. So it's great strategies and tips.
Yeah.
So one of the things that you teach so much, but you believe, as I do, nurturing a community, it's key. Like if we're going to attract them in, which I use the attract, search, nurture, serve model in my feminine model, we're always attracting our audience, growing our list. If we're not nurturing them, how can we expect sales? And I did a survey last year. I have a large entrepreneur audience. Guess what they said? I don't know what to say. So they're wondering why they don't have sales. So when they did the attract, nurture, serve survey, a lot was struggling with how to nurture, what to say. So guess what they were doing? I haven't sent an email in 3 months. I'm like, oh, but now you're going to go send a series of launch emails and get disappointed thinking that there's no value in your business. No, that's like knocking on someone's door and going, hey, want to buy my car? Like, so talk about that, because that's what I was drawn to you. I'm like, she's teaching what is really needed. So share about that, the importance.
Yeah. So when I was growing up, I lived in a really small town, and there was somebody there that only reached out to me to like hang out when no one else was around. And it was a really crappy feeling. But that's kind of how it feels when you're only messaging people when you're selling them something. It just feels, or like that relative that only comes by when they're like, hey, I'm out of money. Can you give me some money? It just feels really, really icky. And you have a lot of things to say. Like whoever's listening right now, I know that you have things to say. I know you're helping people. And so when you're thinking about what do I email my list and the in between, look at the questions you get in your inbox. What are people asking you? What are they saying they're stuck on? You can use tools like Spyfu, spyfu.com, to help figure out what people are asking online. You can also use Answer the Public, Uber Suggest. Both of those are great tools to figure out what people are asking. You can also use AI tools like Bard, which is AI's or Google's AI tool, to also do some market research about questions that people have. Other things you can do is look in Facebook groups that have your audience, see the questions that they're asking there, the things that they're getting stuck on. And then if you're still not sure, which by that point you should have quite a bit to write about, but after that, if you're still not sure, you could also use something like ChatGPT and say, this is who my audience is. This is what I talk about. This is what my offer is. What are some questions that they might have? And your emails don't have to be like, I'm going to solve all your problems right now in this email, but it can be something really specific. So I'm working with somebody, I'm coaching someone that does tech and automations. And so she was saying, what should I email my list about? They consider themselves tech challenged. Should I tell them how to set up their X, Y, and Z, like their website? But that's setting up a website is a big chunk. And so instead of that, we want to start with something small. So for example, we said how to set up your Google email, your business email address, your email address using Google. So that would be one thing to do. She could walk them through that, send some pictures. She could ask them, what is it that you're stuck on? So even just sending an email and asking them, what is the thing that you're stuck on this week? And I want to just point out, I said this week. If you just say, what are you stuck on? That's a lot. There could be a lot of things in their life. So it could be, what are you stuck on in your tech this week? Just getting more specific so it's easier for them to reply.
I love that being specific, because if you just say, what are you stuck on? Well, the kids are in school.
Right.
We have to tell them. So everything you're sharing, for those who are emerging entrepreneurs, those questions should be tightly related to your core message. You're trying to get information that will support you in business and create engagement. So the question shouldn't be random, that it has to be tied in.
Right.
Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. And depending on the kind of questions, whether you're doing the A, B, C, or D, or you're asking the question that's like, tell me your experience, both of those, you want it to be tied in. So my husband runs a business called Life After Teaching for teachers that want to leave that profession and do something else. And so one of the questions that he might ask is something along the lines of, tell me about something frustrating that happened in the classroom this week. So again, something that happened that was frustrating in the classroom this week. So very specific, they share their experience. But if he wants to do, and just a side note, the answers that we get back are answers that we could use on sales pages and future emails to help relate to that person, so that when they read the things from us, they feel like we're in their head, because we've asked people their experiences and we know those things are actually happening to people in our audience right now.
Yeah, what's beautiful too is I love repurposing. So whatever that response is, that could be a Facebook Live, it could be a class, that paid class, it could be an article, it could be a blog. They're telling you what they want. A lot of us, sometimes we give our audience what we want without ever listening to what they need. And so I love this, and I use questions a lot. Like when we do a book, I'm a book publisher also. Sometimes I'll do, which title do you like best? Which cover do you like best? It's just involving them in the conversation. And so for everyone, when you're feeling stuck, just, your message, your core. And I love that other tip you gave, go tight, not wide, right? With the question.
Exactly.
So this is another question that comes up all the time. How often should I email? Like, so some clients have email newsletters. Some don't have anything in place, but everyone asks that question. So Brittany, what's the answer?
So usually when someone asks me this question, I ask this question back. I say, how often are you emailing currently? And what else do you have going on? So for somebody that is not emailing at all currently and has a lot going on, maybe they're a parent, school just started for their kids, they feel like they're running everywhere. One of their kids is in football, one of their kids is in something else. For them, the thought of doing 1 email a week or 2 emails a week might be incredibly overwhelming. And typically what I find is that when somebody is overwhelmed, they're not going to do anything or very little. And so instead of telling them, all right, 1 email a week, 2 emails a week, I'm going to say, why don't we start with 1 email a month? Do you think that that's something that you can consistently do, 1 email a month? And they're like, oh, totally, I can definitely do that. And I'm like, perfect, let's start with that. And then after a month, I'm like, okay, you did the email for that month. What do you think about doing 2 emails this month? And usually because we're stepping incrementally, they're like, yes, okay, I can do that. And so then we build up. Ideally, we want to be doing 1 to 2 emails a week. For some audiences, you can do more. Like I said, I have a colleague who makes a lot of money and does a really great job and just shows up beautifully in the world. And she emails almost every single day. I have a lot of other clients that do once a week and they do really well too. So once a week, twice a week is ideal. But if you're not emailing at all, don't feel like you have to push yourself to do that right away. Start with 1 email this month, and then next month, go to 2 emails a month, then 3, then 4, and so on.
So here's a question for you, because I usually guide the same thing. Start with once a month, especially the ones with young children at home, because we know what that's like. I'm past that chapter. So when you're mailing twice a week, we'll say that as an example, what would be in each mail? Say one's an email newsletter where you put different things in it. Is the other one, the second one, if they choose to do that, more of a just text message, not an email newsletter? It's a conversation.
Yes.
So you can still have your monthly email newsletter filled with whatever is on point for your brand. But you're saying the second one should be conversational, just a text.
Yep, absolutely. And that way they're getting to know you, not just necessarily as the business, but also you're another human too. And sometimes, I mean, we can connect with anyone across the entire world pretty much in
Yeah.
seconds, and yet so many still feel so disconnected, or like they've lost connection with people. So to be able to show up as the human that you are, is a really beautiful thing to be able to offer someone.
Yeah, I think that's important, and everyone that follows me, they know you're getting my heart in my emails, right? You're getting what my family's going through. I'm not talking about drama. Nobody wants to hear that. I'm talking about, hey, I get what it's like when you're trying to balance 5 things and you have 7 events in 1 week. Hey, ladies, can you relate? Something like that. Um,
Mhm.
so it's more conversational, and then well, I'm a little different because I have a media company, so I have to have a big emails
Mhm.
newsletter. But my personal stuff, I love that. I love that connection. And those are the ones, think about it, ladies. Those are the emails you read,
Mhm.
right? You have
Mhm.
these people that come into your inbox, you're like, oh, what does she got to say? Ask
Mhm.
yourself why that's happening. I found it's because I can feel the truth of who they are.
Mhm.
I feel their essence. I feel their humanity. So I started paying attention, like, why are you always opening this one and maybe not
Mhm.
this one? Have you noticed that too for yourself?
Absolutely. And I noticed that I still remember emails that people have sent that are those personal ones of what they're going through, especially when it's something that I either just went through, am going through myself, or might go through in the future. And so it feels like they're a human, I'm a human, and we're just having a connection. And it's just really beautiful. But those are definitely the ones that I email or I open, and definitely the ones that people open. Most of mine are the ones that are very personal.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you, I think they've been along my journey in this company. It's gonna be 18 years.
Mhm.
I don't use I'll give you an example. I don't use my granddaughter's name, right? I
Mhm.
just, so she's hashtag little goddess for
Mhm.
years. There are people on her birthday in December who happy birthday, hashtag little goddess, or send up
Mhm.
emails wishing the look. And I'm like, they remember, it's personal.
Mhm.
They And I talk about her a lot because she's 12, she's with us a lot, and I have a 23-year-old grandson. Those are the details, like sharing something she did about finding 4-leaf clovers. They
Mhm.
remember that. Then they send the message back on, oh my God, I got 3 4-leaf clovers last week.
Mhm.
That's what we're talking about. It doesn't mean we're always, I think where a lot of entrepreneurs struggle is they think that to be successful in business, they always have to be on point and talking about their business.
Mhm.
I found it's the opposite.
Mhm.
Human, they do business with the human, not the business.
Yeah, agreed. And I think it's important to do that. And then I think one of the places people get stuck too is they think, well, if I do that, I have to share my entire life. I have to be like a family vlog. And that's not what we're saying at all. We're saying you can share the pieces that you want to share. It doesn't mean you have to share everything. It doesn't mean that you get to choose what you share and don't share. There's a lot that I don't share because I want my child to be able to show up on the internet in the ways that she wants to versus in the ways that I feel comfortable with. And so when she gets older, she can make that choice. But the things that we share, the things that I think will be helpful to someone, but still honors and respects our privacy and just, as a mom and as a person, I'm not going to share everything, and that's okay.
Yeah, and that's beautiful to say. And this is the thing I think too about the sharing element.
Mm-hmm.
If as you're writing, you go into what I call drama energy, ask yourself, is that the impact or energy I want to put out? Because sometimes when we're writing, we can get caught in a story, and they don't want those kind of stories. They don't
Right.
want your drama. They
Mm-hmm.
want maybe what you learned from it, so
Right.
that you're making a positive, energetic
Right.
imprint when they open those emails.
Yeah.
And so I always tell people, feel the energy,
Mm-hmm.
because and when you're writing, and then you'll know if you're oversharing
Yeah.
or sharing the wrong type, because if it triggers you, it's not something to send.
Yeah. I
And
agree.
that's just my personal belief.
I'm
So
100% there.
so we shared about how regular meaningful interactions through email fosters a sense of belonging among your audience. I think it does. They'll say, Linda, I've been following your emails for 17 years. I'm like, what? Someone just said that on a networking
That's so
call. I'm
cool.
like, but isn't that what we're talking about today, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it's everything you teach. It's about showing up consistently,
Mhm.
showing up in your humanity and the truth of who you are,
Mhm.
and engaging them in conversation. I think that those 4 tips I think were beautiful, and it gives someone an energetic space to be in when they start writing their emails. Like, oh, now can I do one of these 4? I think it gives them almost like a formula.
Yeah. Actually, speaking of formula, if you want, I can kind of share the formula that we use with our emails if you'd like.
Oh, I would love it. Yes.
Okay. So almost every email we start out with, this is our acronym. It's ATMRN. I wish that I had come up with a better acronym because we use it all the time, but I didn't. So ATMRN, the A stands for attention. So something that's going to draw them in, get their attention. Usually we start with some kind of storytelling element because we find that does best. The next thing is tell your story. So we go more in depth into some kind of story. This could be, here's why I'm sharing this resource with you today, even just sharing how this resource impacted you or what it gave you the opportunity to do. M is make it mean something. That is, here's how it's going to impact them, whatever you're telling them. R is reflect. So reflect on what they're thinking, what objections are coming up for them, what questions are coming up for them. Especially when I'm sending emails about like how I've done something, I think what's somebody going to say, oh, she could do that because X, Y, and Z, but I could never because what are those kind of things that are going to come up? And then N is next step. What's the action that you want them to take? Whether it's reply, click on a link, go to a resource, go to the sales page, but what's the next step that you want them to take? And then typically in the PS, we do add some kind of offer. Even if it's a nurture email, we'll do one of our low ticket offers just as a, hey, reminder, this is here if you need help with anything. This is something that can help you.
I love that. And I love the next step because I think that's missing, especially in a lot of new entrepreneurs. They're so afraid. So they speak, but there's no invitation, no action step. And you and I know that we want to engage them in action, whether it's, hey, read this blog that's related to what I just said. It's something.
Yeah.
And I'm like you, the PSs, I think are some of the times the most read part of the email. And I love that. ATMRN. So I am so grateful that you joined me here today. And I want to tell everyone, Brittany has a powerful gift that after this conversation, I know you're going to want. So it is her welcome sequence email template. So it's right below this video. Click it. You need this, you want this, grab it, make it a little easier for you. So Brittany, tell them what they can expect in this.
So you're going to get 2 things with this. One is the email sequence template. So there's 4 emails in there, and I put what you fill in brackets. So it makes it super easy. You can read through and see exactly where you need to add in your own information, your own flair. And then there's also a training in there too. So if you want to see why I did what I did, how I did it, how I came up with it, it's going to show you how to do that too. So you'll get the training on welcome sequences and then also the templates. So if you want to start from scratch, you can. If you want to use a template, you can. If you want to do a little both, you can, because both of those things are included in it.
That's powerful, my friend. Thank you. Thank you for that sacred offering to all our viewers. Brittany, thank you for joining me. Everyone, be sure to grab that sacred offering right down below. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
This was fun.
Yeah.